Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you for joining me for a bonus how-to video. So over the weekend I posted the time-lapse build of my Mark 1C Deimos pattern Rhino which is joining my Iron Hands force. And in that video you'll probably remember that I had this twin-linked, or what is a combi bolter, and also a multi-melter on the Cupola weapons. And my aim here is to make all of my Cupola weapons interchangeable between the Rhino, but also these two Land Raiders as well. So I've got a Mark 2B Phobos and an Armoured Proteus there. And and all of them have got the same weapon option. So I want to be able to say, take the multi-melter off that and stick it on that guy. However, and I got just see if I can get this guy off here. There you go. I've got a heavy bolt gun there. Oops. Like so. However, I am one heavy bolt gun Cupola short. So I raided my bits box and dug a few parts out, and I've come up with a neat little remote fired heavy bolt gun that I'm going to do for the Rhino. So and I thought I'd just share this with you as an idea around converting, doing the sort of pintle weapon conversions. It's a bit like when I did the Cerberus, the heavy bolt gun on that. And this is a similar idea in terms of using spare parts, etc., but a different design that I've come up with. So let me show you what I've got. So we've got the Cupola that comes with the Rhino, so straightforward, I'll just bob that there. I've then got, these are spare parts from my Cerberus or Sicaran battle tank. There's a sponsor mounted heavy bolt gun, which is these are all resin components, and it has a drum fed, or the heavy bolter is drum fed. So I've taken that and I've sort of changed around the way it attaches. I've mounted it on the top, like so. Because the Rhino doesn't have as many firing optics, I thought it'd be fun to play around with that idea. And I had a spare targeting skull. I think it was the remains of some Mechanicum Castellax weapon that got dissected. Oh yeah, a friend of mine, I had a miscast one, and I gave it to my friend who turned it into a World Eater Trident, but he gave me this back, so he said he didn't need it. So what I've done is I've grafted that onto the side of a heavy bolter as like a targeting skull, and then put that on, and I mounted the ammo drum on as well. And my idea here is to create like a remotely controlled weapon station, as opposed to a pintle mounted weapon like this guy, where to fire it, a marine crewman has to pop the lid, get out, and hold these triggers and fire it. This is a weapon that's will be operated from within the vehicle itself. It's a bit it's a bit like some of the more modern weapon stations on certain armoured fighting vehicles. And I know there's quite a few guys who watch these videos in the States, and you might be familiar, if you have any interest in modern military, with the Tusk modification kit for the Abrams battle tank, and that has something very similar to this. It's a 50 caliber machine gun, I believe, and it's on a remote control turret, so it can be fired from within the tank without the crew exposing themselves. And that's the sort of principle I've used here. And there's lots of other modern military vehicles that use this approach, particularly the current generation of MRVs, mine resistant vehicles, where it's a popular design. So I've set the weapon up, so I've put a targeting skull on it. The ammunition, the weapon itself, I mean, obviously, I've used a bit of liberty. You wouldn't necessarily put a targeting optic right next to the barrel of a heavy weapon like that, but we can imagine it's 40k, that it's got some sort of clever visual filters to remove the muzzle flash and smoke distortion and stuff like that. The other thing I've done is I've mounted it this way around, with the ammunition drum on the left hand side, and I'm imagining that's because the ammo case is going to eject out that way to the right, as to not sort of eject in over towards the other cupola with the combi bolter, and also where a crewman might have his head stuck out. And then the same I thought here as well, you know, the ammo cases could fall onto the deck as opposed to perhaps get it flung straight into the track unit. So there's a little bit of kind of a sensible design, perhaps practical design there that I've thought with it. And then I've got these two, so I then need to think, well, how do I actually mount this weapon? I've got these two pieces here. There we go. These are power cable attachment points from the Leviathan Siege Dreadnought, so these will normally attach to the shoulder, and then you attach the cables onto those. So I've used those, and I've used these to make a mounting bracket. So I do apologise about the focus today. I'm struggling with it. Might be maybe the ambient light's not very good today. Right, you see there's a hole there. So what I've done is I've drilled all the way through the back of this heavy bolter, and I've put a steel pin in there. And then on these spare Leviathan pieces, there you go, I've drilled two small holes into there, and then those are going to sit on the side like so. If I get the second one, and oops, see if I can do this without dropping everything, which is always a risk with something like this. There we go. So it's going to look something like that. Then the final piece I've added to this conversion is like an articulation arm to kind of like represent what like a bit of hardware that would raise and lower the weapon. So this is, I think, this is the remains of a miscast leg or an arm from a Vorax robot, which I just cut down. And then what's going to happen here is that's going to sort of sit like so. This is going to be tricky. I'll tell you what, I'll do these. There you go, that's better. Right, so that goes there. You see? So those two plates are now the mounting brackets, and this, you know, articulates. I'm not going to leave it to articulate, but that gives you an idea of how I imagine it might work. And then this is going to sit under there like that, and the final thing is going to look like that. So I'm going to glue this together, and I'll come back to show you it once it's fixed. And welcome back. So I've done my gluing, and let's take a look at the remote weapon station heavy bolter that I've put together. So there you have it. As you can see, so the two Leviathan parts are like the mounting frame that's attached onto the rear, the kind of like the arm of the cupola lid. There's the robot leg, that's the articulation jack, or the articulation piston to raise and lower the gun. And then of course for the facing, the cupola will rotate. Now I've not finally stuck this, just to give you an idea of how I did it. And so there you can see the articulation, and I've done a lot of work cutting out the original mounting material on this gun, and it now just nicely pops down and clips into position. So yeah, so you see I've created that pivot there. I guess if you wanted, you could, if you built something like this, you could leave it just swinging, but I'll glue this for stability. Yeah, I'm actually really pleased with this. This is one of the favourite little my most favourite little conversions I've done recently, and I've spent a lot of time working on this Rhino, because at the moment it's probably going to be the only Rhino in my force, so I've given it kind of like some extra attention, and I got to admit that looks absolutely. I'm really pleased with how that looks, with the remote weapon station heavy bolter, and then the combi bolter as well. It makes this Rhino look like a formidable opponent indeed. I don't know, yeah, and this whole assembly is mounted on this thing. I mean, I don't know if you would still be able to use the cupola. Perhaps you could imagine it's got a strengthened spring or something that when it opens, or maybe it's just locked in place and they have to use the other cupola or the rear access door to reload it or service it. But nonetheless, I think it does a bit. And then you know, equally, just slide our friend the Phobos forward. That can equally, you know, drop in there. There's a weapon station on that. I've got 2 heavy bolters here and 1 multi-melter, so I kind of got a mix of, I think, what the key weapons are for how I will tactically use my guys. But yeah, equally, you know, it looks equally good on the Phobos, and then finally we could also drop it onto the armored Proteus. You know, and again, yeah, looks really good. Oops. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that little demo, and you know, that gives you maybe some ideas if you've got spare parts. You know, I mean, if you've bought any of the Sikaran tanks or a Cerberus or a Typhon, you will have spare, and you've armed them with las cannons, you'll have spare heavy bolters and ammo bins. You know, and you know, perhaps if you're wanting some pintle weapons, maybe you know, I hope this might give you an idea as to how you could convert them on. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.